I'm really pleased to say that last week the real estate team announced the selection of 3 developers as part of our PACT program, or Permanent Affordability Commitment Together. It does not roll off your tongue. Which is our effort to really, as outlined in NYCHA, leverage HUD tools to preserve our portfolio and invest in our buildings. So these partnerships will ultimately, these are preliminary numbers, but help us address about $300 million in capital need. There are about 1,700 apartments across 17 developments in the Bronx and in Brooklyn. And everything from system upgrades like heating and elevators to new kitchens and baths, something that are critical to safe and clean homes. And so this is happening and this is moving, and we're really excited. And we have great examples of this already. I'll remind the board, Ocean Bay Bayside, which is out in Far Rockaway, is, I think, if not halfway, 2/3 of the way through construction there. And we should go see it and let the residents talk to you about the improvement in their quality of life and in their community. So lots of good work here, and more work to come. Continued movement on our sustainability efforts, which also outlined in NYCHA, about really leveraging the HUD energy performance contracts, EPCs, which we had outlined. There would be an estimated $300 million investment over the course of the NYCHA period, and I'm pleased to say that we've closed on 2 of the energy performance contracts, totaling about $103 million. And again, just as a reminder, this tool allows housing authorities to make physical interventions in the building, and they can vary from window replacements to other heating and cooling upgrades that ultimately reduce the energy costs and then allow the housing authority to capture those savings and reinvest them back into the building for other important capital needs. And so that is going on. Ultimately, we think it will. I think it's 65 developments will see some improvement through this work. So literally thousands of residents will see the benefits of this important work. And I want to congratulate the capital team, but also the sustainability team led by Bomi Jung. Really exciting to share that we finally, and I say finally because this was something that was outlined in NYCHA, was the creation of the Resident Leadership Academy. And it is a partnership with the CUNY's Murphy Institute, the Fund for Public Housing, and the Housing Authority to create a credit-worthy program for emerging and existing resident leaders throughout NYCHA. So residents can actually receive college credits that they can use. They never expire. They're there if they choose to go and continue their higher education. So the inaugural class of this academy, I believe it's 25 residents, is underway, and incredibly excited to learn things like bylaws and how to prepare nonprofit budgets and issues of governance and other things that our resident leaders are facing on a daily basis in their respective communities. So a really important step forward for the continued engagement and growth of emerging resident leaders throughout the authority. So I'm happy to answer any questions on that, and then I'm going to take a little interlude and talk a bit about some of our colleagues.
Good question.
Please.
Any resident can go to this?
So there is an application process, and so yes, any resident who is in good standing can apply. We're both sort of limited by the resources right now, so there's a class of 25, but the hope is that we can expand it and really serve as many residents as possible.
Okay.
Great. So I want to just take the liberty of talking about, maybe embarrassing a little bit, some of our colleagues who are moving on and moving on to the next chapter in their professional lives. Many of you have either worked with or had the pleasure of being in the presence of David Farber, who for some reason is not here, because he probably knows I'm going to embarrass him. David Farber is our general counsel and executive vice president of legal affairs. And David is, I like to call him, more than a GC. Someone who, has not only managed what is effectively a law firm of about 155 people here at the Housing Authority, but has served as a critical member of my senior staff, counsel to me personally, or in my role here, and is also a dear friend. And we want to thank him for his almost 3.5 years service. David has been a longtime public servant at the New York Law Department, so Corp Counsel, EDC, and then most recently, before joining NYCHA, at the Hudson River Yards Development Corporation, which, if you go up on the west side, it's like a whole new city that's been built over there. And David is, and many are responsible for making that happen. And David here in his role has done a lot of work that doesn't always capture the headlines, right? Things like thinking through the complicated issues around permanent exclusion, thinking about the complicated issues around rent collection and tenant administration issues, thinking through our real estate negotiation sort of stance in different types of real estate transactions, and many more things. He's led, the continued support with his able number 2, Kelly McNeil, who's the first Deputy General Counsel, really working to develop a new generation of legal minds through the honors programs and many other things. So I want to thank David in absentia, wherever he is, and thank him for his service and wish him all the best in his next chapter. So thank you, David. And I want to welcome NYCHA White, our new EVP of Real Estate. Please stand, let everyone know who you are. NYCHA White joined us, I think this is day 5, and she's still here. And we are thrilled to have her. NYCHA is a seasoned real estate professional. She comes to NYCHA from Carver Community Development Corporation, where she served as president and developed new business opportunities through strategic partnerships and innovative ventures with nonprofits, faith-based organizations, and community development corporations. Prior to Carver, NYCHA worked for a variety of New York City community development organizations, including the Community League of the Heights, or CLOF, West Hab, Washington Mutual Bank, Enterprise Community Partners, and the New York City Housing Partnership. She is well known and respected in the affordable housing space, and we are thrilled to have her. I am thrilled to have her on our team, my team, and so welcome. And your second day, you announced lots of development deals, so we have high hopes. So we are thankful to have you here, and I have to thank Deborah Goddard, who is our, in her day job, is our EVP of capital projects and overseeing all of the work that's happening throughout our portfolio, including our Sandy program. When I asked Deborah to step in as the acting EVP, there was no hesitation. She said yes, and did it with gusto and energy and excitement, and I think it earned the trust of another team here at NYCHA. So thank you, Deborah, for your continued partnership and support. Welcome. So, saving the best for last. I want to, we announced a week or so ago that Michael Kelly is going to leave us in his, I think you are the only general manager who's been here twice, which is distinction, as Michael moves on to the next chapter in his career, long career in serving neighborhoods and residents of public housing, whether it was here in New York or New Orleans or Washington or San Francisco or Philadelphia. He has continued to bring a level of grace and professional energy that we will miss. And I am personally grateful to him for his friendship. And I know his footprints are big, but we are incredibly grateful to you, and we wish you all the best in your next chapter. And thank you so much. Thank you. And we, because you know what, we actually do have 176,000 units of work to be focused on. So we will make sure that the work that the GM has been leading and the work that we're all engaged in continues with little break. And so I'm pleased to share, and I think people know, the mayor appointed Vito Mastachulo to serve as the acting general manager. Who, while we perform a national search for this very important position, many of you may know Vito is the deputy commissioner at HPD for their division of enforcement and neighborhood services. Vito taught me how to inspect buildings 15 years ago, so he brings decades of experience to the general manager role. Has been critical in leading the city's alternative enforcement and emergency repair program, and many other important components of keeping New Yorkers safe. So we will be excited to work with him, and you will see him at the next, I believe, the next board meeting. He'll be here in time for that, and so we're thrilled to welcome new people in this mission to ensure that residents have safe and clean homes to live in. So lots of changes. The only constant is change. And, in the midst of all that, we continue to do our work and remain focused on our mission of serving our residents. So with that, there are no questions. I'm happy to turn it over to Michael.
Good morning. Good morning, board.
Good morning.
I'd like to share with you some key performance indicators for the month of December 2017 around work orders, vacancies, and customer satisfaction. In the month of December, we closed at overall about 159,971 open work orders. What this is a direct response to the bomb cyclone, as it was called. Heat was up by 4,000 and hot water was up by 2,500. And these numbers really came in over the last few days of December. The overall work orders, to draw your attention to the last two columns here, December 16th, 17, and December 17th, we created 261,000 work orders, and we closed 244,000, compared to 2016, where we opened 254,000 and closed 246,000 work orders. So we continue to create more work, and this is, again, a product of our proactive inspection activities that we're doing. Emergency work orders is one in which the chair and I talked about the anomaly. When you look at this year compared to last, we were at 12.4 hours of response time overall. What this is really a tribute to is how well our performance was for the first 3.5 weeks of the month of December. During the last week of December, almost 4,500 work orders were created around heat and hot water, about 90% of the work orders. But this figure shows, sort of on balance, the work that we had done and the time it took us to respond on emergency work orders through the entire month. For next month, you're going to see these numbers spike through the ceiling. Maintenance work orders, again, becomes one of the backbones of the successes of the next generation operations, next generation NYCHA. We're now, during the month of December, we're tracking about 4.6 days to respond to a simple maintenance request. On skilled trades, again, in terms of open and close, in 2017, we opened 135,000 skilled trade work orders, and we closed 125,000, compared to 2016, where we opened 115,000 work orders and closed 112,000 work orders. So again, it just sort of supports the fact that we're creating more work and doing more work with, frankly, less resources. And skilled trades is one, again, that Sharon and I were looking at, continues to drop from mid-summer, about a 76 days to respond to December was 63 days. There's much more analysis that needs to go to identify the progress. We do know that there was some temporary painters that were put on during the summer through the day and there's a relation between painting and plastering, obviously. And those were the two big areas where we found the biggest drop in terms of skilled trades. But again, I think the kind of analysis that Kathy Pennington is doing right now of looking at reg time versus travel time, just-in-time offloading of materials so our skilled trades can actually do work in real time, are all things we're going to continue to work on. The expectation I have is that this number is going to continue to drop. Apartment turnaround time, we're looking for the month of December, 55 days to respond to an apartment turnaround compared to 52 days. Again, we continue to focus on the anomaly of those units that have been off the rent rolls for quite a while, and bringing those back on has call it a negative impact on our overall performance. We continue to look at work orders that were done within 30 days, and we're now, and percentage-wise, about 66% of our work orders are done in that period. Finally, for customer satisfaction, we continue to track about 75% of our residents feel that we're doing a good job. But again, so much of this is really tied to the customer experience of having the entire work done versus a specific activity done. Where we're looking at quality assurance as quality control, we can actually say that we've done one particular thing, but the resident doesn't care about that one particular thing. They just want the overall work done. And I think these numbers continue to reflect that dissatisfaction. And finally, I'd just like to note that it's been an honor to serve this chair, this board, the residents of New York City's public housing, and an incredible privilege to work with the amazing, dedicated professionals that I am convinced, because I work in the engine room, that this is a strong engine. It's old, it requires some upgrading, but the spirit of this crew is outstanding, and it was never more exemplified than during this bomb cyclone, where I firsthand saw people leave their own homes to make sure that folks that we are responsible for had heat during this period. And that was just, it's time-wise was good. That's going to be my last real memory of how powerful a team this chair and you as the board are managing. So thank you.
I am remiss that we should need to acknowledge Kathy Pennington's new role as, so many of you know, Kathy has successfully led our leased housing program for 5 years. And now, and as she likes to remind me, 2 years in a row as an A-rated, 3 years in a row as an A-rated leased housing program by HUD. Kathy has managed that organization through some serious transformation and improvement, as evidenced by the external grade that they've received. And it was not a hard decision to ask her to step in and run the operations or our next gen operations, formerly property management space. So I want to thank her and congratulate her in that role. Congratulations, and it is a congratulations. And again, I think to echo the GM's words, the leadership here is critical, but more importantly are the people who we work for. And we need to remember them in all of this, because they are literally on the front lines, addressing, difficult and constantly changing circumstances. So thank you, Kathy, and thank you, everyone.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
May I add
Yes,
something?
sir.
I also personally want to thank you, Kathy, for all the work that you've done for the homeless veterans in this city. You've been instrumental in getting a lot of that done. And you and I have worked together on going to see the deputy for this district. And the only thing I can say is thank you very much from a veteran himself.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. All right, let's get to work.
Good morning, Deborah Goddard, EVP for Capital. So item number 1 is the recommendation to award a contract for the replacement of interior compactors at 3 developments to M. Boyan Construction Company. Lowest bidder in the amount of almost $1.7 million. The 3 sites we are addressing are Bushwick, Pink, and Van Dyke 1, based on the recommendations from operations in terms of the difficulty and the age of the systems there. Boyan is a minority-owned business. They've done work with us in a satisfactory manner. Their VNC is pending, and therefore this vote is conditioned on getting a cleared VNC. They are proposing 3 Section 3 hires. This is federally funded. Item number 2, if there are no questions, is a change order. Is the ratification of a change order at East New York City Line for the brick repair and related work. The contractor is Bloom Construction. The original value of the contract was a little over $700,000. This change order is in the amount of about $248.5 thousand. The reason for the change order is that during construction, it was discovered that the sidewalk sheds weren't spec'd to get over the entries and had to go up 5 more feet to get over the entries. To be honest with you, this was a problem with both our design and our project management staff. We've changed our process. QA looks at these specs now before they go out to bid. There's always a little bit of interpretation and back and forth with DOB, so we're attending to this a little bit more carefully. Item number 3 is the recommendation to rescind an award and reject all bids in connection with the replacement of underground water and fire line distribution piping at Smith Houses. This board voted to award a contract to Empire Control Abatement. Prior to awarding the contract, some peculiarities with the procurement were discovered. We worked with law. We agreed with the recommendation that the procurement process needed to be reevaluated and that there were some flaws with it. So we did not move forward with the award of the contract. Special conditions requires bidders to hold their bids for a period of 120 days from the bid opening. This matter took more than 120 days. The next lowest bidder, JCC, Empire no longer wanted to hold their bid, and the next lowest bidder was 61% over the cost estimate, which we believe was excessive. Therefore, we're asking for the authorization to rescind the award to Empire and reject all bids, and we'll go to rebid. Item number 4 is the recommendation to reject the sole bid for elevator rehab maintenance at Cary Gardens. This was to replace 3 built elevators in 3 buildings. The sole bidder, Centennial Elevator Industries, failed to sign the required letter of assent to the terms of the PLA. They are not a signatory to the PLA. As a result, they were deemed non-responsive. We are going to go back out to bid on this contract.
Does everyone know what the PLA is?
I'm sorry, project labor agreement.
Yes.
Item number 5 is the recommendation to reject the award for Marshall Plaza building envelope restoration. The rejection is based on the fact that the low bidder, J&N Construction Corporation, submitted a bid release request, a formal request claiming a mathematical error in their bid. The review by the law department concurred that it was a genuine mathematical error, met the standards for granting a release under our policies. Therefore, they were released from their bid. The second lowest bidder, AAA Windows and Door Corporation, declined to hold its bid price beyond that 120 days, which this review took. And then the third lowest bidder, Zoria Housing, was almost 38% over our estimate. We consider that excessive. We would like authorization to reject all bids.
Can I ask a question just in
Sure.
terms of the process seems right? Can we work to make sure we get the review process done under the 120 days? Because we're now
Right.
having to reject and start a
Yeah.
whole new procurement process, and it just seems
Right.
like we lose more time.
And I won't speak for the law department entirely, but we do have to take a look at the whole policy because it's a back and forth, allows a back and forth. They submit material, we can go back to them, they have a right to appeal. So I think maybe we need to take a look at the whole process. Item number 6 also is the recommendation to reject the award for gas piping replacement at Hamel Houses. Again, we heard a little bit about this last time. We are in discussion with the city's law department and labor department. There are 2 bid levels for plumbing work. One's called the A rate, one's called the MEP rate. This work has elements of both, and the bid package wasn't put together in a way to segregate that and apply the correct wage rate to each aspect of the work. This is something we newly discovered as a problem. We're working with the law department to come up with a bid package that allows the bidder to allocate the work to each bid, each wage rate, and then we will rebid this package.
Is this Sandy money? Imagine Hamel is.
I believe it is, and it's but it's affecting across the board.
Okay.
Yes, Victor.
Just something I heard. So I always thought that there was a standard wage whenever we have a contract with a developer or whatever the case may be. From what I'm hearing now, it's not always the case.
It is the wage rate, but it depends upon the work. In this case, if you're replacing entirely in kind, it's one rate. If you have to change an elbow or move where the pipe was, it's a different wage rate. So we have to break out the work in a rather laborious process to get the right bids. And this is just something that came up with our gas riser work. I think about 6 months ago, I think the union first protested which wage rate we were using.
And is this specific to plumbers?
Yes.
No other trades?
No. Item number 7 is request to ratify a change order in connection with the restoration work at Lower East Side Rehab. The contractor is PMY Construction. The original contract value is about $1.9 million. This change order is the 10th in the amount of $118,751. This relates to having to do additional structural piles. Once they started doing the work, they realized they needed, in order to have the correct structural torque, enough strength in my language, they needed to have additional 9 piles over the 12 that had been planned. They submitted a cost proposal of $181,000 plus, and we negotiated it down to about $119,000. This is FEMA funded. And the work has gone forward. This obviously is very basic work, and it's gone forward. Items 8 and 9 relate to work, again, similar to a vote we saw last month. This relates to our weatherization program, both of them. As you may recall, as I explained last month, the state administers this program. They identify nonprofit partners for each area in New York. In this case, for the work at Washington Heights Rehab, the partner there is, find it, NMIC. So law has agreed that we can waive the advertising requirements and goal sole source. We are asking for ratification of that. This work has moved forward. Weatherization is on a calendar year that ends in March 31st to have the work done. We got involved with this in November. We gave them the go-ahead to start the work in order to meet the March 31st deadline. The state, through the federal weatherization funds, provides about 65% of the funding. So we want to meet that deadline. So we're asking for a ratification of the agreements with Northern Manhattan Improvement Corporation. Item number 8 is for one group of buildings as identified at $277,000 how much, almost, and item 9 is for about $152,000, a second group of the Washington rehab buildings. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Bob Rando, NYCHA's Chief Information Officer. Item 10 is requesting authorization to enter into an agreement with Bias Corporation for on-site and remote database support. NYCHA's ongoing database support needs have expanded tremendously over the last several years with the introduction of self-service applications like My NYCHA, the ONA Extranet, CBIL annual recertifications, and Maximum Mobile. NYCHA needs 24/7 support to ensure that these critical business applications remain up. This contract will replace a number of hourly temp workers and support contracts with one comprehensive managed service contract with an estimated savings of $566,000 a year. This is a 3-year contract with 2 one-year renewals. Therefore, we are requesting approval to enter into an agreement with Bias Corporation for $5,967,000. Thank you.
Bob?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any time later on today?
For you, Victor, always. Thank you.
Good morning, Kathy Pennington, Acting EVP for Public Housing Operations, and I am presenting Board Resolution 11 and 12, which is requesting authorization of a change order to a requirement contract awarded to ATC Group Services for lead-based paint dust wipe inspection and testing. So both 11 and 12 is an extension, not an extension of the term, but to fund these existing contracts so we can continue our work on our lead program. Resolution number 13 is authorization of a change order on a requirement contract with ALC Group, ALC Environmental for lead-based paint dust wipe inspection and testing. Also, this is to continue the requirements to do dust wipe testing as part of our lead program. Resolution number 14.
One question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Very simple. The swipe inspection, paint dust wipe inspection,
Yes.
is this going to be a continuing process, or are we targeted a specific amount of apartments?
This will be an ongoing
okay.
program.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sure. And resolution number 14, authorization is requested to ratify a change order to this requirement contract with JLC Environmental Consultants for lead-based paint X-ray fluorescent inspection services. And this contract is used primarily with our move-out units to do the additional testing on those units and other cases, but primarily move-outs. Any questions? Thank you.
Deborah Goddard for real estate one last time. Item number 15 is the request for the authorization to submit an application to HUD pursuant to Section 18 of the Housing Act of 1937 as amended in connection with a proposed supportive housing development at East 165th Street / Bryant Avenue in the Bronx. This project goes back to a collaboration between HPD and New York City Health and Hospitals started in 2013 to create supportive housing. The projects will be funded in part with New York State funding to support the services and the rents. We are in negotiations with New Destiny Housing, the developer for this site. This development merges 3 sites: the primary development site, East 165th / Bryant, an HPD site, which will be conveyed to us, and thirdly, the development rights at a second NYCHA site called the adjacent site. I want to be clear, the second NYCHA site is currently used as a basketball court. It will remain as a basketball court. We are not transferring the ownership of the land. But this merger, including the development rights, allows for more development on our primary development site. And in fact, the developer will be providing some upgrades to the basketball site. We will be entering into a ground lease, coming back to the board after approval from HUD for this disposition. We have received an appraisal of a little over $2 million for this site. The developer is offering a $1 million upfront ground lease payment. We think that in consideration of the affordable housing that's being developed, and the social service being provided, that is an appropriate offer. Therefore, we are recommending that the members authorize the chair, the general manager, or their respective designees to execute any and all documents deemed necessary to submit the Section 18 application to HUD in order to effectuate the project for the purposes on the terms described and upon such additional terms and conditions as the general counsel or general counsel's designee deems appropriate. Yes.
We get the rent?
The Housing Authority will get the $1 million. Yes. Yes.
So, and the appraisal is from when?
I don't have the date of that. We can, it's September 17th.
Oh, so it's recent.
Yeah.
And how do we arrive at that $1 million?
This is part of the RFP process. Is the various developers propose what their offer is, and we weigh it up against. It's part of the whole process of selecting a developer.
Okay. Okay. Does the developer play a role at all in suggesting a price? Is there a negotiation?
Yes. No, they make the offer, they make the proposal in their response to us, and it's one of the factors we take into consideration in selecting the development team.
Okay. And what is there in the footprints? I saw not the basketball courts, but in the other parts there are existing buildings there, from what I could tell. What's there?
You're right. That seems to be what it shows, and I'd have to look into that.
Okay. But those are
Say your question again, because I know
there are existing buildings there in part of the development.
On East 165th.
There's a footprint there. I don't
Yeah.
know if it's
it's a basketball court. To the back, there are some buildings that I don't believe are inhabited, but we'll come back. There's structures as opposed to
Right.
apartments. Yeah.
Okay.
We can give you the
I'm just
specifics.
curious what is
I know
there
the site.
currently. But those buildings are part, because there's the basketball court is part of our
It's ours.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the others are, I guess, HPD.
Yeah.
There's yes, HPD owns this parcel
Right.
here, and they're going to convey it to us in support of the project.
Okay, I'd be interested to know what's there.
Okay.
Thanks.
Item 16 is the amendment of the board resolution relating to the disposition of 2 parcels at Astoria Houses. So I'm going to go back a little bit in time because this goes back to 2015. So 2015, there was an agreement to work with Durst organization. Durst organization got permission to carry out a large-scale general development. As part of that, they have to develop some affordable housing. Our property was necessary to give them the land, and they're going to develop their affordable housing requirement on our land. This project was to encompass 7 market rate buildings to be constructed in phases over 10 years. In 2015, we went into escrow. The developer wanted to wait to be assured of what the 421A abatement program was going to be like. Once it came out this year, we broke escrow in July. The original board vote sets conditions to go to conveyance. One was that they had to have proof of financing. Another was that that we would give them some light and air easements. And the third was that we were going to give them some transferable development rights. They also had, those were the options. That's what we were giving them: the property, the development rights, and the light and air easement. They had to show proof of financing. They were agreeing, because of their requirement to meet emission standards, to reroute our distribution line and smokestack to clear their environmental requirements. Aim to break escrow this summer in July. They did not yet have their financing, and they provided to us a completion guarantee with financials backing up the fact that they could do this without outside financing. We considered that sufficient proof of financing. We got ready to go ahead. They made a plan. They gave a plan to us about this new smokestack. It was way out of line in terms of an urban proposal and what this gigantic gargantuan thing was going to be sitting next to our building. So we came up with a different proposal, which is to put in new burners. I'm just telling a story because put in new burners in our boilers, which would take care of the emissions process. And they also offered us $550,000 to replace legs on our boilers, which would extend the life of our boilers. When it came time to closing, they claimed a title flaw. They said that the completion guarantee did not meet the terms of our conveyance in terms of providing evidence of financing. We don't agree with that at all, and that provision was to protect us. We're happy with the completion guarantee. Nonetheless, their lawyer claimed title flaw, so we are here to fix the title flaw and take that out from any further consideration. Therefore, this board vote would amend the prior board vote to state that we can accept tax-exempt bond financing or the completion guarantee as evidence of financing in place. We're getting a little bit more specific about the light and air easements, and we are authorizing the use of the installation of the burners and the $550,000 in place of the rerouting of the smokestack. So that's the amendment to your prior vote. That's a lot. Any questions?
No.
The prior vote, do you have the date of that prior vote?
It was
There were
14, it
two
was-
resolutions.
Yeah.
There was one in 2013, November of 2013, and another one in April of 2014.
And at this point, the purchase and sale also allowed the Durst organization to postpone closing by 2 years, and they have exercised that first option. Any other question? Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, 16 items were presented for board approval. Do I have a motion to accept
Motion.
approval?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I move that the members be authorized to meet in executive session today to discuss the litigation matters of Johnson et al. Versus NYCHA, civic number 169924, Lewis et al. Versus NYCHA, civic number 17-00294, Brown et al. Versus NYCHA, civic number 16-9263, and Jones et al. Versus NYCHA, civic number 17-3683.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Oh. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great month.
Did-
Let's have the kids.
Thank